Hello my friends, welcome to my channel. Today's episode I want to make some response to the comment I received for my previous video. I acknowledge and appreciate the valuable comment from sincere viewers. Let me express my sincere appreciation for this particular viewer from India. And the topic I want to touch on is why I think uneven, the bigger and bigger gap in the wealth distribution, which is polarization, is bad, not only for the working class, but also for the capitalist. And it is also bad for the economy as a whole. So the idea of that viewer is that the Amazon workers, they don't get a higher pay because they are not innovative, and the lack of innovation determines their pay structure or their pay scale. I disagree on this part because it is true that high-skilled workers should be entitled to higher pay, and the management being in their position and considering their contribution towards the daily operation of this economy, of the company, they should be entitled to pay better than the average general workers. However, the current pay scale in Amazon, which I criticized in my last episode, is too drastic. Too much wealth goes to the top and the base. There's a very large base in Amazon's workforce. They get too little. That's the problem. It's polarization. The capitalist, the owner of the company, abused the labor market condition. They purposely minimized the pay to the general worker, and the general worker without a union stand in a disadvantageous position, so they can't bargain for more. That is actually the evil of this capitalist system, which Marx criticized 100 years ago. And why it is bad? As Marx points out, the product offered by the capitalist, so-called company, no matter how innovative it is, it requires a demand from the consumers, and 90% or more of the consumers are general working class people. So if they don't get a fair share in the wealth created by the society as a whole, and which they are the majority of the workforce in the creation of such wealth. If they don't get their fair share, their spending power will diminish over time. So the demand from the consumer class will be weaker and weaker. This will result in a poor performance of the companies who produce the products and services catering for this consumer. And this is exactly why the Great Depression happened in 1920s. Prior to the Great Depression of 1920s, the economy was booming. However, while the economy was growing, the share of the working class is dropping. Hence, what I described earlier happened. There were smaller and smaller market for the more and more products produced. So depression comes in, and this is a typical reason why capitalist country experience recession periodically. If we count the number of recessions in United States as well as in Europe countries, we will notice that after 5 to 7 years on average, they will experience some sort of recession. Oftentimes, the recession can be prolonged if it cannot be handled properly. The cure for such recession is the redistribution of wealth. For example, in what brought an end to the Great Depression is the booming demand for ammunition, for all sorts of products which are manufactured in the United States to the world during the World War II, and this effectively ended the Great Depression. And why? Because of the new economic policies, the new policy introduced by Roosevelt. There is a very heavy tax levied upon the wealthy people in the United States. And the government effectively used those tax money by offering lots of government-initiated projects effectively redistribute the wealth from the rich people to the general working class. And this brought an end to depression. So my argument is that if we allow private company like Amazon to abuse its position in the market, to allow this exploitation of labor force, it is detrimental to the economy. That's the economic side of problem, and there is another side of it, which is the moral side. All people are equal. All of us are born equal, and all of us should be entitled with certain amount of respect from this society. Respect not only in a moral sense, but also the economic sense as well. If we discriminate general workers, discriminate their work, and we value only the innovative, the technical work, we in a sense are disrespectful to the general labor, to the work provided by common people. Of course, we should give a higher pay to the skilled workers for their innovation, etc. But this balance should be carefully managed, not in the hands of the capitalists, which are greedy in nature. It should be kind of collective, collaborative decision. So that's my point. Yeah. I hope I clarified on this part, and of course I appreciate that. I agree science and technology are important forces to propel our civilization forward. But we cannot overemphasize on the importance of sciences and technology. Oftentimes, science and technology can't resolve social conflicts, social problems, disequalities, inequalities in this human society. Unfortunately, there were vices in our society. It's just kind of a nature rule. There were always vices in the human characters, and those things can't be solved by the science and the technology alone. So some kind of social reform is needed in a capitalist country where too much power is with the rich and those who are in high up positions. That's why I appreciate and I value the elements of socialism. Actually, I'm a socialist. I agree with Marx and Lenin on many aspects and many of their views towards human society, towards how we should govern ourselves in this society. And I think it's a tragedy that a lot of socialist countries were ill-managed. Ill-managed in the sense that not because they adhere too much to the socialist ideology or communism ideology, rather they directly or indirectly were influenced by the Western capitalist country propagandas. And this results the augmentation of bureaucracy class in those socialist countries. And this bureaucracy, most of them are party apparatus. They deviate from the communism and socialism ideology. They become a close, not group, work for the interest of their own, of those bureaucrats, not for the common people. And this brought the decline and the eventual downfall of Soviet Union as well as the Eastern Europe bloc. Not because of too much socialism resulted in a very rigid form of economy, those kind of bullshit. It is actually the deviation from the original economic model. Because if you pay attention, if you do some research in the Soviet economy, you will notice that when after the Stalin, and especially after 1970s, the general workers, the so-called low-skilled workers, their say and their representation in the management and operation of those state-run enterprises are much reduced as compared to 1960s or even 1950s. The workers and peasant class no longer feel they are the master, they are true representative of Soviet Union. Slowly, the enthusiasm to ideology, to communism faded, and the bureaucrats got in their way, and they are able to manipulate the system slowly to their advantage and slowly dismantled this socialist, the so-called socialist country. And in my opinion, this is the true reason for the collapse of USSR.